The quiet crack beneath the surface ETH. First day on set was supposed to be exciting. People rushed around with purpose. Laughter filled the air, and cameras blinked like stars, waiting to capture magic. But in the middle of it all, Ana de Armas sat silently in her chair. Her hands clenched so tightly that her knuckles turned white. No one noticed, no one, except Keanu. He wasn't supposed to be there yet. His scenes weren't scheduled until later that afternoon, but he came early. Not for rehearsal, not for costume checks. He came because something felt off. He couldn't explain it. He just did. When he walked onto the lot, smiling and greeting the crew, saw her across the space. Alone, surrounded by people but untouched by their energy. Anna's eyes were locked on the floor, and something in her stillness felt heavy. She had mastered the art of hiding pain. Years in the industry taught her how to smile, even when her world was falling apart. But today the mask was slipping. Keanu's single quotes eyes softened. He didn't rush. He watched, listened, while others buzzed around. Her, he simply observed. And that was enough to catch the tiny tremble in her fingers. The way her shoulders hunched in, like she was folding in on herself. Behind the scenes, Ana was battling more than just nerves. Her mother had fallen ill 2 weeks before the shoot. Her family was far away, and the weight of pretending to be okay was slowly crushing her. Each day, she buried her fear under makeup and costume. She showed up, delivered her lines, smiled at the cameras, and then when no one was looking, she'd hide in the bathroom and cry. But Keanu noticed something others didn't. Not because he was trying, but because he cared. He walked over casually as if nothing was wrong, as if he just wanted to say, "Hello?" "Hey," he said softly, pulling up a chair beside her. Ana looked up quickly, startled. She forced a smile, wiped the corners of her eyes before he could see. "Hey, you're early. Couldn't wait to get started," he said with a grin. But ... you okay? Her smile cracked just a little. Of course, just tired. He didn't push. He didn't ask again. But his silence wasn't empty. Was kind. He stayed beside her, even though he had a dozen other things to do. The makeup artist called for him. He waved them off. He stayed after. A few minutes, he leaned in a little. "You know, I've had days where showing up was the hardest part." Ana blinked. His voice was low, not intrusive, gentle. "What helped?" she whispered, unsure why she even asked. Keanu looked ahead, nodded at her, and said quietly, "Someone who didn't try to fix it, just sat with me." Ana didn't say anything. But a tear rolled down her cheek, unnoticed by everyone else except him. He handed her a tissue. Not a word, just a simple motion. The kind that said, "I see you," the director called out. Crew moved into position. The world spun fast again. But Keanu didn't move. Ana looked at him, trying to find the words to thank him. But before she could, he stood and said, "I'll be right here, whenever you need." And just like that, the silence around her didn't feel so loud anymore. Later, that day, Keanu did something no one expected. He told the production team he needed a schedule change. He offered to shift all his scenes to work around Ana's comfort. When asked why, he simply said, "Because I can." No cameras caught that moment. No headlines printed it. But behind that choice was something rare, a man who saw pain and didn't look away. Ana didn't know it yet. But that one moment would change everything. Because from that day on, she wasn't alone anymore. And Keanu, he wasn't just an actor anymore. He became her anchor. When kindness walked in unannounced next morning on set, everything looked normal, just like the day before. Sunlight spilled across the studio walls. Crew members moved quickly from station to station, and the smell of coffee filled the air. But something had changed. Ana walked in quietly, like she always did. She wore her usual smile, the kind that told the world she was fine. But this time her eyes kept searching the room, and then she saw him. Keanu was already there, leaning against a table, sipping tea instead of coffee. He looked up, caught her glance, and gave her the smallest nod. That small gesture, calm, quiet, respectful, more than any loud words ever could. He didn't rush to her, didn't crowd her. But when she walked past, he simply said, "You." Slept. Anna paused, surprised by the question. No one had asked her that in days. "A little," she replied, trying not to show how much the simple question meant. "Better than none," he said, and then walked with her to the soundstage without saying more. Keanu didn't try to take away her pain. He just walked beside it. Throughout the day, whenever the cameras stopped rolling, Keanu stayed near. Not too close, not overbearing, just near enough. He didn't hover, didn't speak unless she needed him to. And somehow that made her feel safe. During lunch, she sat at the edge of the trailer lot, away from the others, her food barely touched. Keanu came over again, holding 2 bottles of water. He handed her one without a word, sat down, and unwrapped a sandwich. "You ever notice how quiet it gets right before a scene?" he asked suddenly. Anna looked at him. "What do you mean?" He smiled. "Like even in the middle of all this noise. There's this second, just 1 second, where everyone holds their breath, waiting. It's kind of peaceful." Anna thought about it. He was right. She'd never noticed it before. But now that he said it, she remembered that second. Right before action. "When everything goes still, you find peace in strange places," she said with a quiet smile. "Strange places are where it hides best," he replied. Anna let out the first real laugh she'd had in days. Keanu wasn't trying to cheer her up. He wasn't pretending to be her hero. He was just there, honest, calm, real. And for the first time, she didn't feel like she had to perform when the cameras weren't rolling. Later that afternoon, while filming an emotional scene, Anna's hands began to shake again. Her mother's condition had worsened. She had gotten the message just an hour before. But she didn't tell anyone. She stood on her mark, waiting for the director to call action. Her heart was racing, her vision blurred. The lights felt too hot, too bright, Keanu noticed from across the room. Without a word, he walked over and gently placed a hand on her shoulder. He leaned in and whispered, "Breathe in, just once. With me." She followed. "Now let it go." She did. Her hand stopped shaking. No one saw the moment. No one but the two of them, and somehow that made it sacred. She got through the scene, not because she forced herself, but because someone reminded her she didn't have to do it alone. After the shoot ended, Keanu asked her if she wanted to walk for a bit. Outside the lot, away from the lights, they strolled down the quiet alley behind the studio. No one followed. No one knew. "You don't have to talk," he said. Anna took a deep breath. And for the first time in days, she spoke honestly. "I'm scared," she said. "I feel like I'm holding everything with both hands, and if I let go for 1 second, it'll all fall apart." Keanu didn't offer a solution. Instead, he said, "What if it does fall apart, and you find out it doesn't break you?" Looked at him. His eyes were gentle, steady. "What if you fall, and you realize you can still stand up?" he said. She didn't answer. But she didn't need to. That night, she sent her mother a voice message. Her voice was soft, but not weak. She didn't cry this time. She just said, "I'm okay, Mama. Not perfect, but okay." And it was true. Keanu had done something powerful. Not by fixing her problems, but by walking into her storm and simply standing there, unafraid to get wet. The storm behind the Smiliana walked into set the next morning with a small but real shift in her step. Not confidence, not yet, but less fear. Kind that comes when someone sees you, really sees you, and doesn't run away. Keanu was already there. He stood near the crew trucks, arms crossed, talking to one of the lighting techs about something unimportant. But when Anna arrived, his eyes quietly found hers. She smiled, and for the first time in weeks, wasn't forced. But peace doesn't stay long when life behind the scenes keeps breaking. Just before rehearsal, Anna received a call. She answered. Quickly stepping behind a stack of crates to hide from everyone's eyes, her brother's voice was shaking. Their mother's condition had taken a turn overnight. Doctors weren't sure how much longer she had. Anna's legs buckled. She slid down against the crate, phone still to her ear, eyes filling with tears. She couldn't stop this time. Keanu had just been walking past to grab a script. He wasn't looking for her. But the moment he heard her muffled voice, something in him stopped. He followed the sound, not with urgency, but with care. And when he turned the corner, saw her, small, shaking, broken. He didn't speak. He sat down beside her. Anna tried to wipe her tears, tried to hide the phone, but he gently stopped her hand. "Don't," he whispered. "Don't hide." For the next 10 minutes, they sat in silence. The kind that doesn't feel awkward but necessary. The kind that holds pain like a blanket. Anna finally whispered, they said, ... It could be days, maybe less. Keanu closed his eyes for a moment. Then he opened them and said the one thing no one else had. Then you should be with her. Anna froze. But the shoot can wait, he interrupted. Family can't. But the studio let me talk to them. Her hand shook. Keanu, ... I can't just leave. He looked at her, steady and calm. Yes, you can. And you should. Within 2 hours, Keanu had spoken to the director, the producers, and the studio heads. He didn't demand. He didn't throw his weight around. He simply said, "You don't understand what she's carrying." And I do. When they hesitated about rescheduling, Keanu offered to cover the cost of the delays from his own pocket. He told them, "Don't make her choose between her job and her heart." And suddenly no one argued. Anna couldn't believe it. No one had ever stepped up like that for her. Not without expecting something in return, not without drama. But Keanu didn't make a scene. He just made space. Before she left for the airport that evening, he walked her to the car. "You sure?" she asked again, her voice soft with worry. "Completely," he said. "And when you're ready to come back, ... I'll be here." Did he? She looked. At him, really looked. "Why are you doing this?" she asked. He smiled gently. "Because someone once did it for me. And it changed everything." Her eyes filled again, but this time the tears weren't just from pain, they were from gratitude. From surprise, from something she hadn't felt in weeks' hope. She left. And for the next few days, the set felt quiet without her. Something was missing. Everyone felt it. Even the scenes without her seemed to pause midair, like the story itself was waiting. Keanu stayed behind, but not just to work. He took care of everything, kept things moving, talked to the crew, made. Sure, the energy stayed calm, focused, kind. But more than that, every evening, he texted her. Just one message, something simple. "Thinking of you. Take your time. We're all good here." He never asked how she was, unless she offered. He never pushed her to come back. He just reminded her that when she did, she wouldn't return to chaos but to care. On the 4th night, Anna sat beside her mother's bed in a quiet hospital room. The machines hummed softly, and the air was heavy with goodbye. Her mother opened her eyes slowly and whispered, "You look lighter." And I didn't answer right away. She simply held her mother's hand and smiled. "Someone reminded me, I don't have to carry everything alone." Her mother smiled back. Weak but proud Anna stayed 3 more days. She was there when her mother passed, peaceful and surrounded by love. And when she came back to set, something in her had changed. She wasn't just stronger. She was ready to breathe again and waiting at the gate. It was Keanu, just like he said. Didn't ask questions. He didn't say, "I'm sorry." He just opened his arms. Anna stepped into them. And for a moment, she forgot the world. When trust becomes the turning point, the first morning back on set was heavy with emotion. Anna stood just outside the studio doors, breathing in slowly, holding the handle, unsure if she was ready to face everyone. It wasn't the cameras that scared her. It was the questions, the looks, the quiet whispers people thought she wouldn't hear. But before she could open the door, it swung open from the other side. It was Keanu. He didn't seem surprised to see her, like he knew somehow she'd return that very moment. He stepped aside without a word and held the door open. No dramatic smile, no big welcome. Just calm, quiet presence. Anna stepped in. The lights, the makeup station, the crew walking around, it all felt unfamiliar again. Like she had to relearn how to exist in this world. But her heart was still tender. Yet Keanu walked. Beside her, like before, the director came over quickly, smiling and saying they were happy to have her back. The producers waved. Some cast members hugged her. It was warm but overwhelming. Keanu gently placed a hand on her shoulder. "Take a second if you need to," he whispered. She nodded and stepped aside. No one followed her, no one except him. Out back, where the sun painted soft streaks across the pavement, she finally breathed. "I feel like a different person," Anna said quietly, sitting on a crate. Keanu leaned against the wall beside her. "You are." She looked down. "What if I can't act the same anymore? What if everything feels too big now?" He took a moment before replying. "Then let it feel big," he said. "You don't have to shrink for the story. Let the story stretch with you." She looked at him, eyes glassy. "You always say the right thing," he smiled faintly. "I just say what I believe." They sat in silence again, but this time it wasn't heavy. It felt like two people watching the wind move, just present, without needing to fix anything. After a few moments, he pulled something from his jacket pocket. A tiny notebook. "I've been keeping this for you," he said, handing it over Anna. Opened it slowly. Her breath caught. Inside were pages filled with notes, lines marked with reminders, ideas on character changes, feedback from the director, little jokes crew members said to make her laugh when she returned, and something else, Keanu's own notes about her scenes, how to make them easier for her, how to keep the emotion real but not overwhelming. She ran her fingers over the inked pages. "You did all this, for me, not for you," he said softly. "With you in mind." Anna felt her chest tighten. Not from grief, but from the gentle, unexpected weight of being cared for. For the rest of the day, the scenes went smoother than anyone expected. Anna slipped back into character, but with a deeper truth. The sadness she carried gave her performance a raw, honest beauty. After one take, the director whispered to his assistant, "She's never been this powerful on screen." Anna didn't hear it, but Keanu did, and he smiled. Later that week there was a night shoot. Cold air, long hours, and a complicated scene that pushed both of them emotionally. The story required a confrontation between their characters, a scene filled with pain, misunderstanding, and eventual forgiveness. Anna froze halfway through the third take. Tears came too early. Her voice broke. "Cut," the director said. "Take 5. The crew stepped back. Some looked frustrated. Others looked tired. Anna stepped off set, wiping her eyes furiously. "I'm sorry," she whispered, over and over, to no one in particular. Keanu followed. He found her sitting on the curb, arms wrapped around her knees, trying to breathe through the panic. He sat beside her again. "I can't," she said. "Thought I could, but I can't." He didn't argue, didn't tell her she was wrong. Instead, he asked, "Do you want to know what I see when you act?" Anna looked at him, not trusting herself to speak. "I see truth," he said. "Not perfect. Lines, not clean emotion, just truth. And sometimes truth doesn't wait for the script. Sometimes it shows up messy and early." She closed her eyes. "But it slows everyone down. I'm making mistakes." "You're not a machine," he said. "You're a person. And sometimes the cracks are what let the light through." Anna let out a long breath. "Come on," he said. "Let's walk." They strolled along the edge of the set, the moonlight catching the edges of their shadows. As they walked, Anna spoke quietly about her mother, about the final conversation, about the silence after Keanu listened without interruption. When she finished, she expected the same soft comfort as before, but this time, Keanu asked something unexpected. "Do you want to put it in the scene?" Anna stopped walking. "What? Your truth?" he said. "Not as a breakdown, not as a cry, just ... The way you look at the world now. Let that be in the performance. Not forced, not loud. Just there." Anna stared at him, uncertain. "Really think people will get it?" He looked at her steady. "I think they'll feel it." And that night when they returned to the scene, something remarkable happened. Anna didn't cry. She didn't even raise her voice. But when she delivered her lines, the entire set went silent. It's not because it was written that way, but because every single person in that room felt something real. When the director finally said, "Cut, no," one moved, then applauded. Soft at first. Then building, not out of celebration, but out of respect. Anna looked across the room at Keanu. He didn't clap. He just nodded because he knew. And she did too. The moment the world saw her, the days that followed moved like waves, some strong, some gentle, but each one carried Anna forward. There was something different now. Not just in her acting, but in her being. The pain hadn't disappeared, but it wasn't drowning her anymore. She walked onto set with softness and power, the kind that comes after surviving something real. And through it all, Keanu remained nearby. Not as a shadow, not as a hero, but as a quiet force, steady, honest, respectful. They shared fewer words now, but more understanding. The crew began to notice. The way they worked in sync. The way they didn't have to signal or rehearse much. Just look at each other and they knew. But one moment changed everything. They were filming a pivotal scene. Their characters were finally opening up after years of silence and distanza. Reunion filled with quiet forgiveness. The camera rolled. Anna's character was supposed to look away as Keanu spoke. The script called for tension, avoidance, pain. But when he started his line, Anna didn't look away. She held his gaze. Not as the character as herself. The pain in her eyes wasn't just pretend. It was her grief, her loneliness, her truth. The months she had spent holding everything in, now melting in front of the lens, and Keanu saw it. He changed his line, not by much, just one word. From "why did you leave?" to "why didn't you let me help?" The director didn't stop them. The scene continued, Anna responded, not from the page, but from her heart, because I didn't know how. The air went still. The crew forgot to breathe. They finished the scene in silence. No cut was called, just a long, sacred pause. When the lights dimmed, the director wiped his eyes and said, "We're not reshooting that." The footage from that moment, raw, unrehearsed, unplanned, became the soul of the film. It traveled beyond the script, beyond the screen, into something human. Weeks later, that same scene was used in the trailer. The internet exploded. Fans didn't know why it hit so hard. They just knew it felt, taught true. People commented, "I don't know why, but I cried watching this." There's something in her eyes, like she's really lived this. Keanu's voice, ... That question, it felt like he meant it. The studio leaned in. They knew they had something rare. Just a performance, but a story behind the story. Interview. Requests came in fast. Anna hesitated. She didn't want to make this about her grief. She didn't want to perform pain for headlines, but Keanu sat with her and said, "You can share your story. Only if it helps you heal, not because they expect it." Anna agreed to one interview, just one in it. She spoke honestly about losing her mother, about the weight she carried, about the man who noticed before anyone else did. She never said his name directly, but she didn't need to. Viewers knew. The clip went viral, not because it was flashy, not because it was sad, but because it was real. Anna found herself flooded with messages. From young actors, from people grieving, from strangers who had never felt seen until they heard her speak. She read them slowly. Some late at night, some during quiet mornings with coffee in hand. One message simply said, "Thank you for showing me it's okay to not be okay." Anna sent a screenshot to Keanu. He replied with just 2 words. "That matters." Meanwhile, the film neared its release. Early screenings were emotional. Critics whispered that this might be Anna's best work yet, that her performance was unflinchingly human. But none of that praise changed her. She stayed grounded because her strength wasn't in what the world thought of her, it was in what she learned to think of herself. One night, after a long shoot, she found Keanu sitting by himself on the back steps of the studio, looking at the stars. She sat beside him, not saying anything for a moment. Then she asked, "Did you know that I'd be okay?" He smiled faintly. "No. I just knew I wouldn't let you go through it alone." Anna leaned her head on his shoulder. "Thank you," she whispered. He didn't answer, didn't need to, because sometimes the people who save us don't need applause or attention. They just need to know we made it through. The movie wrapped. 2 weeks later, the last day on set was filled with hugs, laughter, and quiet tears. The director gave speeches. Producers handed out thank you gifts. People snapped selfies and signed scripts, but Keanu and Anna didn't do any of that. They stood near the edge of the lot, looking out at the city skyline. "You leaving tomorrow?" he asked. She nodded. "Going to spend time with my family. Think it's time." He looked at her, eyes warm. "Good, they'll be proud of who came back." "So will yours," she said. They hugged, not a dramatic hug, a real one, a grateful one. Then they let go. But the connection they built, the respect, the kindness, the trust, it didn't fade with distance. Because when someone drops everything for you, not to fix you, but to stand beside you, that never really leaves. The kind of love that doesn't ask to be seen. Months had passed since the film wrapped. Anna had spent time with her family, deep, healing time. Not for interviews, not for public appearances. It's just for being. She took long walks with her father, helped her younger sister with school, visited her mother's favorite coffee shop, sat in the back corner, and closed her eyes. Listening to the same old songs on the radio her mother used to hum, healing didn't come all at once. Some days, she still cried before brushing her teeth. Other days, she laughed at nothing in particular, but she was stronger now. Not because she had moved on from her pain, but because she had stopped hiding from it, and all along. From a quiet distance, Keanu kept checking in. Never too much, never. Too little, just enough. A text once a week, sometimes a photo of his dog, sometimes a quote from a book, sometimes just a line like, "This made me think of you." They didn't speak every day. They didn't need to, because the space between them wasn't silence. It was respect. When the film finally premiered, Anna wasn't sure if she'd go. She didn't want the red carpet, the lights, the loud questions. From people who didn't really know her story, but then 2 days before the event, she got a message from Keanu. "I'm going," it said. "But only if you walk beside me." She read it twice, then smiled. The night of the premiere was crisp and cool. Photographers gathered behind velvet ropes, lights flashing, voices shouted for attention. People posed, smiled, moved on. But when Anna stepped onto the carpet, hand in hand with Keanu, everything slowed. Not because they were a couple, not because it was romantic, but because something about their presence felt ... real ... calm. Human Anna wore a simple dress. No diamonds, no loud colors. Keanu wore his usual black suit, quiet, classic. They didn't pose too long. They didn't wave too much. They just walked. And for the first time, Anna didn't feel like she was performing. She felt like herself. Later, that evening during the premiere, the audience sat in silence as the lights dimmed. The film began. People laughed, cried, leaned forward. And when the final scene played, the unscripted moment where Anna and Keanu's characters truly saw each other, the entire room held its breath. The credits rolled. Applause broke out. Some people stood. Anna didn't move. She sat frozen, staring. At the screen, the weight of the entire journey pressing gently into her chest, Keanu reached over, squeezed her hand once, then let go. After the screening, at the after-party, everyone wanted to talk to her. Reporters, directors, fans, but she stepped outside quietly, away from the noise. Keanu followed a few minutes later. They stood on the balcony together, looking out at the city lights. "You okay?" he asked. She nodded. "Yeah, really? ... Yeah." He smiled. "It was a good film. It was more than that," she said. "It was a turning point." Keanu looked at her for a long moment. "You changed during it." She looked back. "You helped me." "You did the work," he replied. Anna shook her head. "Would have fallen apart if you hadn't stayed." He looked away, then back. "I didn't stay to save you, Anna. I stayed because you mattered." She felt something in her heart soften. something she'd kept guarded for too long. "You never asked for anything," she said. "Not even a thank you." "I didn't want one," he said. "Your peace. That's enough." Looked at him again. And for a long moment, they said nothing. But everything had already been said. Asterisk, asterisk the next morning. Headlines were everywhere. Ana de Armas delivers her most powerful performance yet. Keanu and Ana's on-screen bond is rooted in something deeper. Audiences moved by truth behind the scene that wasn't scripted. People speculated, assumed, imagined love stories and hidden romance. But they missed the real truth. This wasn't about falling in love. This was about showing up when it mattered, about being the kind of person who stays not because they want something, but because they care. Keanu never asked to be the center. He just made sure she didn't stand alone when the lights felt too heavy. And Ana? She learned something no script had ever taught her. She learned that sometimes the deepest kind of love isn't loud. It's quiet, steady, unshakable, and real. Asterisk, asterisk, months later, when Ana received her first major award for the film, she stood on stage, holding the gold in her hand, the room bursting into applause. She smiled, looked out into the crowd, and simply said, "To the one who stayed behind the scenes, thank you. You reminded me I was never alone." The room quieted. A few people turned to Keanu, who sat in the back row, smiling faintly, nodding once. He didn't stand. He didn't wave. He just sat quietly right where he'd always been, not in front of her, not behind her, but beside her, always beside her.